I'm Bill Kassel, and this is Free Expression. This program is all about conveying the Christian message from a Catholic point of view and defending the liberty which makes it possible to do that. We discuss a bold proposal by an Orthodox Jew to have Christians rebuild Gaza, and we look at life on a cell phone-free college campus. Join us, sit back, and enjoy some free expression. Jonathan Feldstein is president of the Genesis 123 Foundation, an international ministry that works to strengthen ties between Christians and Jews. He's been keeping us up to date on Israel's action against the Hamas terrorist organization in Gaza, and he recently wrote an article for the Jerusalem Post in which he looks ahead to how Gaza can be rebuilt and reconstituted after the war. As someone who's been deeply involved in charitable activities across the Middle East, Jonathan has a proposal that might be described as unconventional, but is certainly intriguing to those of us who care about the future of this land that's holy to believers around the world. Jonathan, thanks for speaking with us again.
It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
If you would, lay out your vision for a post-war Gaza.
There's a lot of talk here in the Middle East about what will be the day after and the notion of defeating Hamas. And militarily, that the general assumption, not just here in Israel, but around the world, yes, militarily, Hamas is a terrorist organization with a certain number of active soldiers and terrorists who back them and weapons that come largely from Iran can be defeated. But the broader concept is that there's an ideology that needs to be defeated, if not first and foremost, at least as well. Because now, for a generation, under Hamas, Gaza has been controlled, hijacked by this Islamic extremist ideology. It's not much better in the Palestinian Authority, where Hamas and the Palestinian Authority compete for dominance and for their ideology and for control. But for almost 20 years, you see exclusive Hamas control in Gaza, and you see broader hatred that's imbued in Palestinian Arabs with very little exposure to any kind of Western democratic norms, civil norms, to Judeo-Christian values, or anything Jewish and Christian that they don't consider to be an enemy. So I invite people to go to our website, solutionforpeaceingaza.com, where we lay out a lot of this in terms of history, in terms of quotes from world leaders who affirm this in different ways. But our solution is to go in and change the hearts of the Gazans who have been living with this hatred for generations. And in doing so, by having Christians, my low number is 100,000, but I think I was just talking in a lunch meeting about this today. I think we really ought to be doing closer to 200,000 because that's actually more biblical. And in doing so, we will expose 2+ million Gazans to Christians who love the God of Israel, who understand, who deeply care and pray for the well-being of all of the Gazans, but also who deeply care and pray for the well-being of Israel. And in creating a positive influence and changing their hearts, my hope is that in 15 years, when my oldest grandson goes to the army, he won't be confronting his peers in Gaza who are 5 years old today who have grown up imbued with hate. That's the vision. Oh, and the other thing is I look out the western window to my home office where I'm about 40 miles from the northeast corner of Gaza. I would love to be able to drive an hour and a half to the Gaza beach and get a kosher hamburger.
What do you see Christians doing tangibly that could bring about this influence?
So I refer to it as probably the largest missions trip ever, where we would have these 100 or 200,000 volunteers with expertise. I'm not talking about people just coming in, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but just coming into Gaza to learn how to say Jesus loves you in Arabic and stand on street corners handing out Bibles.
Right.
We need people who are actually going to go be responsible for the rebuilding and rehabilitation of Gaza. And that means everything. That means all civil structures. That means homes, and to the extent that there are Muslims, mosques. Rebuild churches and build new churches, build community centers and hospitals and schools, and all of the physical infrastructure that we take for granted in the West. If you just close your eyes and drive, well, in most cases in urban areas, 20 or 30 minutes from one's home, you'll find everything that you need in an urban area to exist. In rural areas, that would be less so. We need to provide medical training and medical care and nutrition and education and all of the pillars that are essential for growing a society, building a society, a foundational that can prosper. And we do want prosperity. I'm part of the novelty of this bill is not only that I'm in Israel, I'm an Israeli Jew, I'm an Orthodox Jew, and the window that I just referenced looking out is in what's called pejoratively the West Bank, so that makes me what's pejoratively called a settler, and people assume naturally that settlers are right-wing extremists who hate their Palestinian Arab neighbors and just want to kill them, and that's not the case. We want to live in peace. This is not a war that any of us ever wanted, and I think most of us would be real happy to see Gaza become the Singapore that it really could have in 2005 when Israel withdrew unilaterally. So what's that, 19 years ago this month, in fact. Gaza could have become a Singapore. My prayer is that in 20 years, this I refer to as an army of Christians will come into Gaza and will remake how we know Gaza today.
Would Muslims accept this Christian influence? Would they see it as a Trojan horse for Jewish manipulation? How do you think the idea would be received?
The answer is yes to all of the above, possibly yes to all of the above. The good news is, pun intended, I suppose, Muslims do revere Jesus as a prophet. So they know that Jesus exists. They don't think that he was the final prophet, that's Muhammad. But Jesus is a character in Islamic theology.
Right.
So it's not going in and talking to them about Buddha. You're talking to someone who, in fact, is biblical, who was a Jew, who was an Orthodox Jew here in the land 2,000 years ago. One can't be sure how they will receive that, but I think part of the message, which may not even need to be articulated, Bill, they've been so beleaguered under almost 20 years of Hamas control, and I'm only speaking Hamas control, that they may actually connect the dots themselves and realize Allah is not behind us, and this Islamic extremism that's been imbued in us for generations hasn't worked. So let's listen to other options. Let's listen to these people who have the luxury of picking up from Portugal and Illinois and Mexico and Asian countries, and who are picking up of their own volition and coming to volunteer in Gaza. I think that will speak very loudly, but I also think I just finished writing it up as a draft for a much more substantial proposal. One of the key points is to have as many either former Muslims, I forget what the acronym MBB, Muslim background believers, and or Arab Christians be part of this, because they can speak culturally, if not in their own language, Arabic, to the Christians. Could there be pushback from Muslims? Absolutely. But I'll just take your question a step further. What will the Arab countries say about this? And the natural instinct is to say, oh, no, they'll be against it, right? For all of those reasons, Trojan horse, ulterior motive, can't be Christian, all of these reasons. I would advocate that possibly all of these Arab countries that have been dumping hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, year in, year out, into this failed society, that just maybe they would wise up, as we have actual allies now with the Abraham Accords, and maybe they'll say, you know what? Everything that we've done in the past hasn't worked. Let's invest in this. Let's support this, because maybe finally we can get this Palestinian Arab ball and chain off our legs and stop dragging us down. That's my prayer.
Let's look at this from the other side of the border. How would it be viewed in Israel? I know that there is great sensitivity about Christian missions. Would Jews be suspicious that this is a way of increasing Christian influence that would eventually leak into Israel proper?
The short answer is yes, of course, for all of the reasons you and I have discussed in the past and could have a very long conversation about now or any time in the future. Jews are suspicious of Christians. We've been persecuted maybe almost as much by Christians over history as we are by Muslims. So for sure there could or would be suspicion. To that end, I think that the message would have to be clear that the purpose for Christians to come and volunteer in Gaza is to rebuild and rehabilitate Gaza. I refer to this as creating a brand new mega multinational company. And that we'll use the business school model. That company makes widgets. It would be very counterintuitive for anyone who's on the staff of that company that makes widgets in Gaza to all of a sudden decide that now they're going to set up a lemonade stand in front of the building or do other things. So I would hope that the volunteers who would come here would be singularly for that purpose of helping to restore and rebuild Gaza with the imprimatur of the Israeli government and obviously security provided by the IDF.
I know that you get to the United States and other Western countries quite frequently. Have you devised an approach to presenting this idea to the broader Christian community? Because you're going to need outside help. You're going to need financing. You're going to need support in a number of ways. How will you be introducing this?
Well, again, the website is solutionforpeaceingaza.com. Our main purpose there is not fundraising, though we have received donations, and that's been a blessing, especially since that's not been our main purpose at this time. We're taking at the moment a top-down and a bottom-up approach. The top-down approach is we need to bring this plan in front of world leaders, people who are influential everywhere in the world, to get their buy-in. In America, it needs to be bipartisan. If people truly want to see prosperity and peace in Gaza, this is the plan. There isn't another plan. This is actually the plan. So we want to get that in front of everyone in America, top-down, political leaders, civic leaders, religious leaders, obviously, social media influencers, wherever we can. In Israel, because our system is a little more complicated than bipartisan, we need multi-partisan approach or multi-party approach. And we're doing that from a top-down basis, and that's going to involve, I expect, a lot of one-on-one conversations to get the buy-in to create more of an infrastructure for a substantial plan. The bottom-up approach needs to be through conversations like you and I are having. This is my third interview on the topic in the last 24, 48 hours, and there's a great deal of interest. And there's a great deal of interest, of course, among Christian media, but also among secular media, because we're over 10 months into this war with no end in sight, with threats coming from the same extremists in Iran, in Hezbollah in Lebanon, the crazy Houthis in Yemen who shouldn't even exist but who are controlling international shipping. I think people understand there needs to be a significant change, and if we get this to be the solution that people are talking about, not the reflexive two states, if we just give the Palestinians a state, then everything will be okay. Mm-hmm. That's actually going to not only not make peace, it will actually keep us in the same situation or even worse, especially now, because now that concept simply comes across as rewarding the terror that took place 10 months ago and is still taking place. And as far as financing, this is an expensive project. It's going to be an expensive project to launch. Upper six figures is our initial budget, and my expectation is that if Christians see that their mission is to do this as the world's biggest missions trip ever, to make influence that makes Gaza safe and free and prosperous, and Israel safe and continuing to be prosperous, I can't imagine how we won't have the buy-in.
Well, once again, what is the URL that people can go to online?
solutionforpeaceingaza.com, And we're inviting people we've been getting emails from electricians and from contractors and people who are retired military who want to come and help. Share with us what your interest is. Share with us what your expertise is. And even if you have no expertise or no desire to go to Gaza, we're encouraging people just to sign up for updates, because you never know who someone will eventually know or connect to or share this idea with.
Jonathan Feldstein, president of the Genesis 123 Foundation. This is certainly an intriguing idea. I can see where a lot of Christians would get excited about this. You should find a warm reception, I would think.
I hope so, Bill. And I'm excited to have the conversation with you, because it's come up. People unfortunately and naturally assume that when you speak about Christians, you're speaking about white American evangelicals. And this needs to be much more broad-based than that. It needs to be multi-ethnic, multilinguistic. It needs to be from all over the world. We need Catholics to get involved and roll up their sleeves and be part of this. One of my concerns, frankly, is that Catholics will say, oh, well, Protestants are getting involved, so we're not going to. I think this is an opportunity for everyone who is a follower of Jesus and calls him or herself a Christian to be involved in something that's, I don't know. It's so crazy for me, Bill. You know me. I'm an Orthodox Jew. For me, right? It should be a joke. It should be the line introduction. An Orthodox Jew walks into Gaza and something like that. But and by the way, I don't know if I shared this with you. When I first presented this idea, it was in the winter, around the time that you and I were able to actually physically meet in person for the first time. For me, it was simply as an idea to undermine the failed two-state solution concept, which people are trying to shove down Israel's throats. And then when I wrote it, and then as you can imagine, Christians got very excited about it. Well, of course, it makes sense. And Jonathan saying it, as the Orthodox Israeli Jew, everyone else has got to be able to realize it. So they persuaded me, many people, friends, people whose counsel I seek on many different items, persuaded me that not only is it not just a novel, radical solution to undermine the two-state solution, but it's something that I have to be involved with. And you know me well enough. We've had enough conversation. I'm not only not doing this for me and my glory. I keep telling people I don't want to be involved. I just want to be the instigator and let good people take it over. But I've been persuaded by enough of my Christian friends that no, Jonathan, you actually have to be involved, because part of the novelty and the success is and will be the fact that you, as an Orthodox Jew, are the one who God downloaded the original idea to and is behind it. So I accept that role, even though I'm really not eager to be the front man.
Well, I think you're right. I think that your involvements across religious lines really put you in a unique position. The relationships that you've established are unique and very much to the point. I can't speak for all Catholics, of course, but to me this does seem to be very consistent with traditional, authentic Catholic teaching on social justice. And social justice in this case has a different meaning than the sort of cliche that's often bandied about. I think this would be a very appealing idea to Catholics, and I'm eager to see where it goes.
I hope so. I've actually been invited to speak in some event in Rome sometime later this year. I truly want to be able to drive an hour and a half and get a kosher hamburger at the Gaza beach and take my grandson 2 weeks before he goes into the army some 13, 14, 15 years from now, and to be able to do that. And that 18, 19, 20-year-olds who will live in Gaza then, Palestinian Arabs, will be prosperous and will not look at us as enemies, or what do they call us, the descendants of apes and pigs and all the other kind of vile things that are imbued in this extremist Islam that they've been indoctrinated with.
Well, it's a goal worth praying about. I wish you the best of luck, and I'm really eager to see how the whole thing unfolds. Thanks very much for taking time to talk about it. This is quite a momentous opportunity, I think.
Thank you, Bill. It's exciting. It's good it's not too late at night, because you've got my blood pressure running, so I have time that I can yet calm down before I go to sleep. But it's real exciting, and I do pray, and people should pray about it and join us.
The introduction of cellular telephones in the 1980s began a revolution in how we communicate. Their later evolution into so-called smartphones changed the way we live. Who could have imagined back in the Reagan years that people would use small handheld devices not only to hold conversations, but to take pictures, play games, watch movies and television shows, to manage their entire lives in all kinds of ways. But despite the many advantages it's brought, there's been a huge downside to this communication boom. Today we experience near constant distraction. The normal conduct of daily affairs is interrupted frequently. Friendships, family interactions, simple human contact are all impeded. The cell phone has stirred particular concern in the academic world. Getting students to stay attentive in class and focused on learning is a special challenge when so much that can draw them off task is so readily available. One school is tackling the problem head-on, Wyoming Catholic College. Communications Officer Julian Kwashniewski is here to explain their approach. Julian, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Bill, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So what's happening with cell phones on your campus?
Nothing, really. Nothing's happening with cell phones because there aren't any. Wyoming Catholic College was founded in 2007. Back then, really even before smartphones had come out, the founders of the college had this vision for a campus in which students would communicate with each other face-to-face and wouldn't be distracted from their studies by televisions, too many movies, and would be able to really engage with like the classics of Western tradition, as well as the wonders of outdoors and nature without digital mediation.
Now, I recently read an article in what I guess is a local publication that talks about how your students are required to basically check their phones while they're on campus. How's that system work?
A lot of schools have begun to have phones checked in during classes or during the time that a student is at the school. So, for example, high schools will have like locker boxes and show up in the morning, check your phone in, and then you get it back in the evening. We do that, but for the entire semester.
Wow.
Students show up, let's say for the fall semester, as they will in just a few days, actually, at the end of August, and they'll be coming with their smartphones, and they'll go to the student life office, and they'll put a label with their name on their phone, and that'll go in a box, and they won't have their phone again until, if they decide to travel, maybe Thanksgiving break. If they stay in town for Thanksgiving break, they won't have that until Christmas break.
The way young people live on their phones, it would seem that there would be a lot of kicking and screaming about that.
You know, it's something that we lean into. It's a feature, not a bug, of our program, as we sometimes say. And so people coming here are not necessarily all on board with the idea, but they're all sufficiently okay with it that it hasn't turned them off from coming to this college in the first place. Anybody who comes here is going to, at some level, because it takes a very long time and maybe never fully understand it, but at some level, anybody coming here is going to see that Wyoming Catholic College is doing something really different and beautiful. We are trying to introduce young men and women who live in the 21st century to the perennial truths, the perennial beauties of Western literature, philosophy, theology, art. And we're also trying to bring them into the wilderness with our outdoor program and introduce them to God's creation in a direct way so that they really learn the things that are, the things that exist, what is. And through this whole complexus of experiences, both in the backcountry, backpacking, and also in the classroom, they come to a deeper knowledge of themselves, of reality, of God, and also of their friends, too. And they learn how to think better. And so that's sort of what we sell, and that's really what we try to live on campus. And so anybody coming here is going to understand at least a little bit of that and say, I want that. And, a lot of people visit, and they say, they don't know what it is, but they're like, I don't know what those students have, but I want what they're living.
Is there a retention issue? Do some people come there and maybe they weren't quite sure what they signed up for and then they're not comfortable?
I don't think the technology policy is usually a main feature of anybody who chooses to leave here. Few people leave from each class, as is normal for any college, but my impression has never been that that is primarily because of the technology policy.
I assume that the school offers a wide range of liberal arts courses, and are there professional specialties too? I mean, you've got the sciences, you've got the literature. What kinds of material are we talking about?
We offer a very wide range of classes, but only one degree. So it's a single track. It's a Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Arts. So all the students take the same classes throughout their entire 4 years here. They graduate, like I said, with a Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Arts. But the liberal arts, also sometimes referred to as like great books, sort of colloquially, that encompasses everything from ancient Greek literature to modern literature, philosophy, theology. We have natural sciences, we have some mathematics, Euclid, as well as more advanced things like statistics to sort of engage with the modern thought about math, modern thought about science, how the sort of mechanized mindset has shaped the way we view the world. So the science classes sort of engage with that in dialogue also with philosophy, theology. There's music appreciation, there's art history, there's rhetoric. All the students learn spoken Latin, so it's an immersion Latin program. They're not primarily focused on grammar and textbooks. They learn by acting, by having props, by just trying to have small conversations that gradually get more complicated. So really it's all of those subjects, and then also, as I mentioned, the outdoor program.
Well, for young people who can take giving up their phones and might be interested in this kind of a curriculum, where can they go to get more information and maybe apply?
WyomingCatholic.edu is our website, and you can find general information there, application forms, contact information. But we always really encourage people, just come out to Wyoming and visit. You know, if you're in high school, or, you know, parents who are listening to this, if you have a teenager who you think might be interested in this, looking at our things online are great, but at the end of the day, what we preach is that online is really not the place to be. The place to be is reality. And so if you really want to get a feel for what's unique about us, come and visit us in person, and I think you'll be convinced.
Julian Kuschnefski, Wyoming Catholic College. Thanks for giving us a glimpse into this unique world without cell phones.
Thank you, Bill.
Be with us next time when we explore other aspects of religious communication and look deeper into the great Christian heritage of free expression. Free Expression with Bill Kassel is a production of Good Shepherd Catholic Radio and Company Publications, where good books, good music, and good radio are always good company. Dan Curris provided technical assistance. Theme and incidental music are by Dan Adam. The program was produced and directed by Bill Kassel. This is Good Shepherd Catholic Radio.